It's always good to get back to the fundamental things that are important, whether you're on a spiritual adventure or not, just being a human being. This idea of love and how to practice it and how to manifest it, how to find it, how to generate it, how to become aware of it. All of these things are outlined again and again. It's the fundamental cause, inspiration, and goal of religion, of all the world's religions, is the unleashing of this pure love for everyone and everything, and learning how to spread it evenly and equally out there without taking into account our own attractions and aversions for things. And Swamiji says here in the Inspired Talks, he gives a nice little paragraph about bhakti, or the practice of divine love, how to love God. He says, bhakti is not destructive, okay? So it's a positive thing, it's a giving thing. It teaches that all of our faculties may become a means to salvation. That means love is something that all of your faculties can be engaged in. Everything about you can be absorbed in love, in expressing love, in opening to love, in feeling a response to a love. We must turn them all toward God and give to Him that love which is usually wasted on the fleeting objects of sense. Now, this is an interesting little statement here, that all of our love needs to go toward God, which is a tall order for many people, for myself for sure. Because what is this God? Where is this God? Someone complains to Holy Mother at one point, what am I supposed to love, a gas? Something, a vapor that I can't see, touch, taste, feel, or hear? And yet, Swami Vivekananda makes it so clear, you've never seen anything but God. You've just named it 1,000 different other things. And that's precisely what he's saying in this little passage here, is that your love of objects in the world, whether it's a new Mercedes or a new Macintosh or the fastest PC or, any of these things that catch our attention, what he's saying is that if you were to discern what it is in that thing that is drawing your attraction, you're going to find a name of God. Now, what do I mean by a name of God? You're going to find something that is the quality of God: security, power, oneness, acceptance, love, all of these different ideals, that these things that we are trying to find in the world, buying security with money and all of those things, that those are all really to be found in the divine, in God, the only lasting entity that is. So all of our senses, all of our faculties turned towards seeing this oneness, seeing this beloved, seeing this love in everything around us, learning to look for that which is the same in all things. He says bhakti differs from your Western idea of religion in that bhakti admits no element of fear. No being is to be appeased or propitiated. So there isn't this idea in the Eastern tradition of an angry God where blood has to pay for anything that you've done wrong, because you are that. And it's understood that it's ignorance in us that causes us to be selfish and to make wrong ideas, that it's a wrong idea of self, actually. And so he's saying that in the Eastern tradition, there is not this fear. God is not something you need to be afraid of. He's not there to control you. He's actually your own higher nature. He's pure inspiration. She is pure inspiration for you. There are even bhaktas, that's people who are practicing devotional worship, who worship God as their own child, so that they may remain not feeling any sense of awe or reverence, because even awe and reverence is a type of intimidation or a type of fear. And all love is an expansion and an opening. He says there can be no fear in true love, right? Even in the scriptures, the Christian scriptures, it says perfect love casts out fear. And what more perfect love can you have than your highest ideal, that divinity, that God, whose love is unconditioned. We hear it again and again, and yet anytime we talk of love, we're popping conditions on it. It's ridiculous. It's such an ignorance. There can be no fear in true love, and so long as there is the least of fear, bhakti, or supreme love, cannot even begin. So really part of our practice is this taking refuge in God, letting go of our fear, letting go of our trepidation, letting go of our identity with an imperfect self, letting go of this identifying ourself with being weak or being impure or being unworthy or being doomed, all of these things. It's a letting go in trust of divine love that increases our love in itself. So if there's any sense of fear, any sense of just obligation, then love has barely even begun, he's saying. In bhakti, there can also be no place for begging or bargaining with God. In a great relationship, there's no bargaining with your partner. Things are done out of inspiration of love for each other. The ideal relationship is where you both anticipate each other's needs and cheerfully race to fulfill them in the best way possible, so that we don't have to worry about our own needs, because we've got that idea of giving, that idea of service that is couched squarely in love, in oneness. In bhakti, there is also no place for begging or bargaining with God. The idea of asking God for anything is a sacrilege to a bhakta. He will not pray for health or wealth or even going to heaven. You know, to request anything of someone that you love is like, that's not where your heart is. You're not there to get something from that person. He gives us a little bit of a challenge here. He says, one who wants to love God, one who wants to be a bhakta, that's someone practicing the yoga of love, must make a bundle of all of these desires. You know, this idea of going to heaven, this idea of getting anything, of acquiring anything. He says these bundles, of all these desires, you have to leave them outside the door and then enter. He who wants to enter the realm of light must make a bundle of all shopkeeping religion. That's that bargaining and bartering idea. I'll give this, you give me that. I'll scratch your back, you scratch mine. It's like that whole idea has to go, has to be let go, because it's ego-based. It's based on the relative world. And we've seen that to know the divine, to see God, and know what you're looking at, to recognize the beloved, you're going to have to step out of that whole process. You're going to have to break down that whole idea of parts and parcels in the world and exchanging one for the other. You're going to have to come to know this as a reality within you, that all of that bargaining stuff covers with ignorance. It's what brings you into fear. It's what makes you feel guilty. It's what makes you feel less than. And that's exactly what God is trying to heal in us with these kinds of ideas. He who wants to enter the realm of light must make a bundle of all shopkeeping religion and cast it away before he can pass the gates. It is not that you do not get what you pray for. You get everything, but it is a low and vulgar religion, a beggar's religion. A fool indeed is he who, living on the banks of the Ganges, digs a little well for water. So what's he saying there? The things that you normally pray for out of need like that, when measured on the scales of eternity, and when the body and mind drops off and you realize your true nature is spirit, you know, that new Mercedes, that bigger computer, that love of your life, they're all gone, because none of these things in this world are permanent. They all run through our fingers. And we don't know that as long as we're identified with the body and mind. We can't see beyond them because of ignorance. So that's where all of this idea of freedom comes from. It comes from a knowledge of your nature and taking your proper place in the scheme of things as that one without a second, ever free and ever pure and never trapped into the idea of a lower and lesser self.